Good morning, sir. Good morning, all. On behalf of Professional Development Committee of WRC ICMAI, I welcome all the participants and today's speaker, CMA VV Allen Shastri, sir, to the series on CSR initiatives. He has more than 20 years of experience in banking, investment banking, equity research, private equity, software, corporate finance, and corporate and criminal laws. He has published more than 1,000 articles in various publications across the world. A columnist in financial magazine, an expert analyst in various international and national business channels, and a person who gets frequently quoted in pink press in India and abroad is what some a personality of Dr. V.V. Allen Sastry, sir. I request, sir. Now I request, sir,
Yeah,
to kindly start the session. Thank you, sir.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you, participants. In fact, guests of today for the Series 1 lecture on CSR and stakeholders' perception of CSR initiatives. As a part of this, in the sense that as a part of a series of lectures in relation to CSR, it is scheduled as such that today I will be covering on CSR and stakeholders' perception of CSR initiatives. And on 30th, I will be covering on impact of CSR initiatives on a company's bottom line assessment of effectiveness of CSR communication strategies. And on 31st, I'll be covering the NGO partnership in detail in CSR and also the role of a CMA in CSR. Professionally, what is the role that we can play as CMAs in CSR? That I will be covering on 31st. 30th, I will be dealing technically on the aspects of basically how to assess the bottom line with reference to CSR, which is in fact we all must learn as CMAs. That will be covered on 30th. Today, I'll be covering broadly to make you enlightened on the part of what CSR exactly it is and what's the perception on CSR with reference to stakeholders. How do they think of this CSR initiative and what's their reflection on CSR is what the content going to be part of my discussion today. Now, first let's begin with what is corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility is not defined scientifically by anyone so far, but it's a conjuncture because it's derived based on a country's, I mean to say, the corporate citizens and the government, where these corporate citizens are part and parcel of it, and the regulatory agencies and the accounting agencies put together, they brought into vogue, they brought into practice some kind of what you call a theory to represent what exactly CSR means. In that context, corporate social responsibility is a concept that describes a business's commitment to operate in a socially responsible and ethical manner. It involves a company's voluntary initiatives to address the social, environmental, and ethical concerns associated with its operations. CSR goes beyond the primary goal of profit making and considers the broader impact of company on society. This may include supporting community development, environmental sustainability, ethical business practices, and philanthropic activities. CSR activities aim to create a positive and sustainable impact, not only benefiting the company's stakeholders, but also contributing to the well-being of the communities and the environment in which it operates. That is to say, long ago, corporates in India never used to bother about the society or the geography or the environment in which they function, but they used to bother about their own logistics, their own supply chains, their own manpower, but they never used to think of the outside premises of the factories, outside the premises of the workplaces of these corporates, whoever have been making substantial profits from the society and using the society for making their profits, but not contributing to the society in any way in its growth needs or developmental needs. That is where the concept of corporate social responsibility has been introduced. And initially, it was voluntary in nature that, okay, you have money, you contribute voluntarily and take up or own up your nearest local community or the geography or the or whatever you feel like developing, you develop it. That way the choice was given to the corporate citizens. But over a period of time in India, it was mandated for the listed companies under a set criteria under the Companies Act 2013. So this is how the corporate social responsibility has evolved. That is to say, if a corporate is rich, if a corporate is making profits, it also has to contribute its due to the society. And without contributing its due to the society, if it only takes the resources for making profits and it doesn't like to spend on the environment or the social equality of the people or on ethical concerns, then it's like a kind of exploitation. To prevent these kind of corporate practices only, to support the community and to develop the community and to make the environment sustainable, because a lot of environmental pollution these corporates will be creating through their activities, and to inculcate ethical business practices and to generate some kind of philanthropic efforts, this social corporate responsibility has been brought in. Now, let us see what is the legal framework. In the context of legal framework, how the corporate social responsibility lies in. So, corporate social responsibility in the Indian context has gained significant importance and prominence over the years. The concept of CSR in India has evolved in response to changing economic, social, and environmental dynamics. Here are some key points to consider regarding CSR in India. The Companies Act 2013 has formulated Section 135. Section 135 of Companies Act is a landmark legislation that makes Indian companies answerable to the government about their CSR expenditure. India is the first country in the world to make the incorporation of corporate social responsibility activities mandatory for certain set of companies which the government has qualified under a certain criteria. It is for sure a remarkable step towards growth and overall development of humanity. Be it a private sector company or a public sector company, corporate social responsibility has to be adhered to by all listed companies. If a company falls in either of the following criteria for compulsion, they need to form a CSR committee. Companies which have a net worth of 500 crores or more, or have an annual turnover of 1,000 crores or more, or companies that generate a profit of 5 crores or more. If any one of these is triggered, then during any financial year, if any of the financial strength criteria are met, then section 135 of Companies Act triggers, and that company which triggers any one of these criteria, that is to say either in terms of net worth of 500 crores or more, or in terms of annual turnover of 1000 crores or more, or a profit of 5 crores or more, then section 135 mandatory CSR spending applies to the company, and it's compulsion on the part of the corporate to start corporate social responsibility, okay, as a part of its activities. CSR activities in India, as I told you earlier, were voluntary for the listed companies earlier. However, it was mandatory for them to disclose their CSR spending to their shareholders. But under the Companies Act, the preference has to be given to local areas in which the company operates, and they need to work for the local areas in which they operate. That's what the preference this corporate needs to give under the CSR responsibility. Now, as a continuation to this, we all need to know what is the scope of CSR activities. Okay, everybody talks about CSR, corporate social responsibility. This is a most buzzing word with all. So, but we need to know what kind of activities really come under CSR activities. That's a must for all of us to know. This is also defined in Companies Act 2013. The following are the types of CSR activities in India that the qualifying listed companies under the Companies Act 2013 can contribute to. 1. Eradicating hunger, poverty, and malnutrition. This can be done by promoting healthcare and sanitation in rural areas. This can also be a contribution to Swachh Bharat Kosh, which has been set up by central government. Blood donation camps can also be done as a part of companies' CSR initiative. If any of the activities of a company comes under the ambit of eradicating hunger, poverty, and malnutrition, then again that needs to qualify further the required, I mean to say, like sanitation in rural areas, promoting healthcare, and then contributing to Swachh Bharat Kosh set up by central government. And if somebody holds blood donation camps, such kind of activities are considered as CSR activities. And then that apart, promoting education is also a CSR activity. Promoting education means what? This can be inclusive of providing education to children and essential vocational skill training that enhances employment or special education among women, elderly, and the differently abled class. So CSR also comes under promoting education. So, but promoting education is again qualified. What kind of education you need to provide is a vocational skill set training, okay, which enhances the employability skills of the youth of India. And then special education, if you provide to women, elderly, and the differently abled, then those activities also comes under promoting education. And again, promoting gender equality. Women empowerment programs can be launched by setting up affordable hostels for women, establishing old age homes, daycare centers, and other facilities for senior citizens is another option. Orphanages can also be set up and managed by the CSR committees under CSR activities. So gender equality, under gender equality, what kind of activities one can do, that is also qualified. So one needs to be careful. Under the broader umbrella, you cannot include each and everything under CSR activity for it to get qualified as defined by the government CSR activities. Yeah. And then now, as a continuation as a continuation from the previous slide, further areas which are known as CSR activities are like this. Number four, CSR initiatives related to the environment. Contributions can be made towards environmental sustainability. Activities that help in maintaining the ecological balance, protection of flora and fauna, promote animal welfare, conservation of natural resources, and maintaining quality of soil, air, and water, including contribution to the Clean Ganga Fund set up by the central government. All these activities come under CSR initiatives related to the environment. And again, protection of national heritage, art, and culture. This can include the restoration of heritage sites, buildings of historical importance, and works of art. Public libraries can also be set up as well. And then measures can be taken towards the benefit and support of armed forces, veterans, war widows, and families. And then contributions to the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund or any other fund set up by the central government for the welfare, development, and relief of the scheduled caste, tribes, other backward classes, women, and minorities. And then contributions are funds provided to the development of technology located within the central government approved academic institutions. And then contributions can also be made towards rural development projects and slum area development. So friends, all these activities are covered under CSR activities. So as mandatory it is for the companies which come under any one of the criteria that I have earlier mentioned, those companies needs to spend 2% of their funds on CSR activities. But they cannot say that they have spent on each and every activity and can claim that that is their contribution towards CSR. If they spend that money in any one of the what you call defined areas, as we have seen in the past slide and this slide, only then their expenditure will be considered as expenditure relating to CSR activities. Okay, hope that is clear to you all. Now for implementing CSR in the organizations, CSR committees are allowed to, be formed, and the CSR committees will frame the policies, and there is a specific role that is assigned to these board of directors in CSR. What are they? Let us see. First and foremost, the qualifying companies are required to form a CSR committee. That is to say, whichever company which falls under the net worth, or which falls under the profitability, or which falls under the annual turnover criteria, what they need to do is they need to form a CSR committee, and then they are needed to spend at least 2% of its average net profits for the 3 previous consecutive financial years on CSR initiatives. Mandatorily, a CSR committee has to be formed by the qualifying company, and it also has to appoint at least 3 board of directors as a part of the board. Committee is responsible for preparing and recommending to the board a policy and a plan that will specifically specify the CSR activities which are to be undertaken under CSR policy. They would also suggest, the committee would also suggest and protect the amount of expenditure to be incurred on the activities referred. monitor the implementation of CSR policy and activity is also their job. So that apart, board of directors of a company play a crucial role in the CSR activities of the company. The role of the board includes approval of the corporate social responsibility policy and then ensuring that CSR plan gets implemented in its entirety, and then full disclosures of the spends and plan of CSR policies which are related to its report, displaying the same on the company's website, making sure that specified amount allotted is being spent by the company in CSR activities, though there is no penalty if the entire amount is not spent on CSR activities in India. The CSR committee and the board's report should include the reason for the short spending. So the responsibility is plugged on the board, which forms as a CSR committee, that hey, you have to spend 2% at least of the average net profits for the 3 previous consecutive financial years on CSR initiatives on the activities that are specified under Companies Act 2013. If you spend, it's fine. You report that as a part of CSR spending. If you don't spend, then also you have to give reasons why there was a short spending, and that responsibility for short spending will be on the board of directors who form part of CSR committee. The board will also have to analyze the recommendations and suggestions made by the CSR committee and support the CSR policy and activities of the company. See, within the board, it's not so that the CSR committee gets separated with 3 board of directors and other board of directors will be separate. It's not as such. The 3 board of directors who form part of the CSR committee will have to report to the entire board, and the suggestions of the CSR committee will have to be taken by all the board of directors as mandated under Companies Act 2013 under section 135. Okay. Now let's see, amid all this, let's see the importance of CSR. While CSR is a big step by companies for making a powerful change, let's be frank, it also means an enhanced overall reputation. Okay. I just take a small yeah, I'm back. Yeah. We are talking about the importance of CSR. While CSR is a big step by companies for making a powerful change, let's be frank, it also means an enhanced overall reputation for the corporates. And then for companies, it is also a powerful statement through which they convey what they stand for. It helps its employees, people, and the company itself contribute to something that is bigger than its own needs. CSR also gives employees a sense of belonging. It strengthens the bond among employees and attachment towards the organization as well. Corporate social responsibility goes a long way in creating a positive word of mouth around the organization as a whole. It plays a great role in making brand publicity. When people hear about CSR activities by a company, they intuitively develop a positive feeling for the brand. They tend to lean towards brands that take a stand. 2% might sound like a small amount, but large companies generate profits in crores that we all know. It's a huge contribution and brings about a big change towards the welfare of society and the development of the country. This is what is a broader argument when we look at the importance of CSR. When somebody says, why should I spend my money on CSR? This is what is the benefit that he is going to get. If the entrepreneur or if the promoter understands the importance of CSR, then definitely he doesn't mind spending the money on CSR. Yes, though it is just 2%, mind you, when the profits are huge for companies, their contribution will also be humongous. That's the reason 2% is no lesser in terms of contribution. But at individual companies level, yes, 2% is a reasonable contribution towards the society for taking the benefit out of the society in terms of profits by the corporates. Yeah. Now, friends, let's look at the latest authentic numbers on the part of CSR as of FY 2021-22. Okay. CSR expenditure summary, if you look at it in this table, whatever I have given, in this table, total number of companies involved in CSR, they are around 18,623, and total amount spent on CSR is around 25,932 crores, and number of states and union territories covered 40. Total number of projects undertaken under CSR 42,440. Number of development sectors included 14. So friends, it's not a small pie, it's a big thing. Total amount spent on CSR activities is around 25,932 crores in 2021-22. This is according to the audited numbers. Okay. So when we want to describe this by creating a statutory obligation for select categories of companies to undertake CSR projects, India has become the only country to regulate and mandate CSR initiatives under the Companies Act. Again, for the fiscal 2021-22, a record 18,623 companies have engaged in CSR activities. It's a strong indication of India's commitment towards social welfare and sustainable development. Not only that, friends, Indian companies have invested a staggering 25,932 crores in CSR activities, marking a significant increase in spending towards social causes. The funds have been directed to a total 42,440 projects, a record high for India, demonstrating an enthusiastic response to the Companies Act 2013, which mandates CSR participation for select categories of companies. Now, friends, again, based on FY 2021-22, the nationwide impact, if we look at it on the part of CSR spend, just now we saw that about 25,932 crores is spent. Of that whole amount of 25,932 crores, which are all the states that are getting benefit out of this spending is what a curious thing which comes into our mind. There, the top 10 CSR spent states are like this. Maharashtra has the highest spending in terms of CSR, followed by Karnataka, and then Pan India. Pan India means Swachh Bharat, Swachh Ganga Jal, like that kind of projects. They are called as Pan India. That comes third. Okay. Then Gujarat, then Tamil Nadu, then Uttar Pradesh, then Delhi, Rajasthan, Telangana, Haryana. They all are in small quantum as such, but the big chunk is going to Maharashtra, Karnataka, Pan India, and Gujarat, Tamil Nadu. Okay, Uttar Pradesh also to an extent, and Delhi. And rest of the country, the spend in terms of CSR is very low. Okay, that we need to keep in mind. Similarly, the reach of these CSR activities spanning across 40 states and union territories demonstrated the nationwide impact of these activities. Okay, the CSR initiatives have been implemented across 14 different development sectors. Okay, and this indicates the diversified approach that Indian companies are adopting towards CSR, recognizing that sustainable development needs to be a multifaceted endeavor encompassing a wide range of sectors. Okay, so this has a far-reaching impact and also reach, but maximum reach, maximum spent happened in a couple of states among all the covered, total covered 40 territories within India, okay, which includes states and then union territories and also some big time municipalities, okay, that way. And then now, if we see the CSR spend top companies, we have many companies which spend on CSR, but the top companies to reckon with are like this: top 10 spenders, if you want to see. First one is Reliance Industries in India, which has spent around 812.33 crores. And then we have HDFC Bank spending around 722 crores. We have Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, spending around 719 crores. We have ONGC spending around 436 crores. NTPC 356 crores. Infosys 344 crores. ITC 333 crores. NMDC 287 crores. IOCL 284 crores. ICICI Bank 266 crores. These are the top spenders on CSR. Friends, if you see in the first top 10 of CSR spenders, definitely, though the names are slightly scattered, but if you see the PSU entities are number wise dominating. You look at ONGC, you look at NTPC, you look at NMDC, you look at IOCL, combinedly their contribution is also very high. So not only the PSUs are contributing substantially, but also the leading private sector enterprises and leading private sector banks are also contributing for this CSR. And friends, figures for 2021-22 are a promising sign of the direction in which India is heading. The regulation and mandatory imposition of CSR by the Indian government have created an environment where companies are actively contributing towards the social and economic development of the country. Not only that, the top spender companies alone have spent around 6,264 crores on CSR initiatives, indicating a strong commitment to achieving societal and environmental goals. This reflects the positive impact of India's legislative actions that mandates CSR for certain categories of companies. So now, friends, we will move to see what was the past picture prior to 2021-22. This was the picture from 2014 onwards till 2020-21. In India, from 10,066 crores of total spent in terms of CSR money, this money has leapfrogged, this budget has leapfrogged to 25,715 crores by 2020-21. And we have seen in my earlier slide around 25,932 in 2021-22. Yeah. So roughly this 25,000 was withstanding going forward, withstood for the last year, 21-22. from the previous year. And then if we see where exactly this money is getting spent, on which sector this money is getting spent, if we see, these are the trends that we find for the past, say, 7-8 years. Education is taking the highest amount, friends. 36,815 crores it took, followed by healthcare with an allocation of 25,391. Then rural development 12,301, others 11,363, environmental sustainability, poverty, hunger, malnutrition, livelihood enhancement, and other central government funding activities, occasional skills. Okay, some are not mentioned basically, but all are centuries. Then PM's National Relief Fund, sanitation, art and culture. These are all the various heads under which the CSR money is getting spent. But the head chunk, the big chunk of the money is going towards education, healthcare, rural development. These are all the interesting places of practice for CSR in India at this point of time. And then India's CSR journey, CSR expenditure over the years. Earlier, we have seen state-wise how the spend has taken place in a particular year, that is 2021-22. Now we are going back by almost 7 years in this case. From 2014 to 2020-21, we are trying to take a trend. When we take the trend, the pan-India projects have taken substantial chunk. Pan-India means what? Pan-India means Prime Minister's special, I mean to say, schemes like PMNRF, Swachh Bharat Kosh, or Clean Ganga Fund, or any other fund, if they have mentioned for more than one state for a particular project or activity under the Prime Minister's aid-oriented programs, then that comes under Pan-India. And these Pan-India Prime Minister fund-oriented works have taken the major chunk of the funds, followed by Maharashtra state, which has taken 18,608 crores, and then Karnataka 7,161 crores, Gujarat 6,205 crores, Tamil Nadu 5,440 crores, Andhra Pradesh 5,102 crores. Rest of the guys are below 4,000 crore block, including Delhi. So majorly, say 5 states are attracting, but the big chunk, I mean to say, more than half, just more than half, that is to say 51,000 crores have gone to Prime Minister's, I mean to say, relief funds, various Prime Minister's relief funds, whose impact is there in 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3 or multiple states. Okay, this is what we need to know also. Likewise, somebody in a state where there is no contribution coming for CSR activities, if somebody wants to practice in CSR oriented stuff, maybe they don't get anything. But if you see, the prime practice can be in any of these states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Delhi, Orissa, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Telangana, and West Bengal. These are the states where you can find one or the other kind of practice-oriented areas for professionals like us. Okay. Now, again, here I'm taking you through after I covered till 2020-21 and some numbers about 2021-22 earlier. Now I am taking you to affirm that the CSR journey really affirms in 2021-22 that it is here to stay. Okay, because if you look at the numbers and analyze, total number of companies taken for this analysis are 18,623, and number of companies exceeding mandated CSR spending are 10,443. Look at the response, friends. Earlier, it was a compulsion made by the government to spend this CSR money Now it's now people are voluntarily spending more than required, more than the required 2%, and they are exceeding the mandated CSR spending. Such kind of companies are 10,443 when compared to the total number of companies analyzed, 18,623. And from these companies, from these 10,443 companies, the total CSR expenditure is around 16,107 crores. In percentage terms, friends, 56% of the companies analyzed exceeded their mandated CSR spending. This tells how robust this practice is evolving in the CSR segment. The comprehensive CSR spending report actually affirms India's journey towards setting a global benchmark in achieving sustainability goals and stakeholder activism. As the nation continues to foster this culture of social responsibility within its corporate sector, it is paving the way for a future where business plays a pivotal role in national development and social welfare. Companies surpassing mandatory spending requirements, according to the data provided by the National CSR portal, a remarkable number of companies have exceeded their mandated CSR spending requirements. As I have earlier mentioned, out of 18,623 companies analyzed, an impressive 10,443 companies contributed more than their mandated CSR expenditure. This display of heightened corporate responsibility led to a total CSR expenditure significantly surpassing the prescribed amount as per the Companies Act. Now, now we are getting into the stakeholders. Who are all the stakeholders in the corporate social responsibility activities in India? That we need to analyze, because that is where basically the role of professionals will also take its origin. So let's look at that. In the context of corporate social responsibility in India, there are several key stakeholders who play important roles in shaping and implementing CSR initiatives. The stakeholders are: one, corporate entities. Of course, they are the prime entities who generate this CSR activity. These are the primary drivers of CSR activities. Companies subject to the CSR mandate under the Companies Act 2013 are responsible for planning, funding, and executing CSR projects. They establish CSR committees, formulate policies, and allocate funds for their initiatives. And then government. Yes, the Indian government plays a crucial role in shaping CSR regulations and policies. It has established legal frameworks such as Section 135 of the Companies Act, which mandates certain companies to spend a portion of their profits on CSR. The government also provides guidelines and monitors compliances. And then we have non-governmental organizations, NGOs. NGOs are often key implementational partners for companies' CSR projects. They have the expertise and infrastructure to carry out social and environmental initiatives effectively, and companies collaborate with NGOs to ensure the efficient execution of their CSR programs. And apart from this, I'm continuing in terms of the stakeholders. There are local communities. The communities where CSR activities are conducted are direct stakeholders. The impact of these initiatives directly affect the well-being of local residents. Community engagement and consultation are essential to identify specific needs and priorities. Employees of a company are important stakeholders too, as they often participate in volunteering CSR activities. Companies may also implement CSR initiatives aimed at employees' well-being, skill development, and workplace ethics. Shareholders and investors. Shareholders and investors have a vested interest in the company's CSR activities because they can influence the company's reputation and long-term sustainability. Ethical and responsible business practices can attract responsible investors. That is the reason even stakeholders and investors, shareholders and investors are also important stakeholders. Customers, consumers in India increasingly prefer to support business engaged in CSR and ethical practices. CSR efforts can enhance a company's reputation and customers' loyalty. Suppliers and business partners, companies may encourage CSR practices among their suppliers and business partners to ensure the entire supply chain adhere to ethical and sustainable principles. You look at how many stakeholders are there. There are many stakeholders, and this is continuing. The list is continuing. And then again, we have academic and research institutions. These institutions contribute by conducting research analysis on CSR impact and best practices. They also provide valuable insights and guidance to companies for their CSR initiatives. And then media and civil society. The media and civil society organizations play a watchdog role, holding companies accountable for their CSR commitments and outcomes. They help raise awareness and advocate for responsible corporate behavior. And then we have industry associations. Industry specific associations often provide guidelines and support for companies in their sector to implement CSR effectively. They may also promote industry wide CSR initiatives. So, friends, likewise, we have this many stakeholders. These are all apparent stakeholders. There are many indirect stakeholders, but that list goes unending. So, effective CSR in India involves engaging with and considering the interests and concerns of all these stakeholders. It is a collaborative effort that aims to create a positive and sustainable impact on society and the environment while ensuring business sustainability and responsible governance. This is where we reached to the first half of the entire discussion today. So we'll take a small break of 5 minutes and again reassemble here. Meanwhile, you can also have tea. I will also have my tea and come back. Thank you. Admin, there is a guest on hold. Can you make him in? One
Done, sir.
person called.
Done, sir. Done, sir.
Done. Okay, great. Thank you. There is one more person, Arunava Chakra, guest. Yeah, fine. Yeah, now I'll start if with your permission. Now, so far, we have seen what exactly the CSR in India is, what's the scenario is when we put the things together, and then we also have covered overall the stakeholders under CSR, and now we see the basically perception of each stakeholder about CSR in detail. Okay, because it's very important for every one of us to know every stakeholder has a role to play. So every stakeholder looks at CSR from his own perspective. So what's the perspective? What's the perception of that particular stakeholder about CSR is what gains importance, because accordingly professionals like us needs to structure the CSR programs to fit within the allowable CSR programs that one can spend. So let us look at it. So as a corporate, when we try to advise corporates, as a corporate, Indian corporate entities perception of CSR is they have increasingly embraced the concept of corporate social responsibility as more than just regulatory requirement. Many view CSR initiatives as strategically imperative that aligns business goals with societal well-being. CSR is seen as an opportunity to build trust, enhance brand reputation, and demonstrate a commitment to ethical and sustainable practices. Indian businesses understand that responsible and purpose-driven actions can attract customers, talent, and investors, ultimately contributing to long-term success. They often perceive CSR as a means to address critical social and environmental issues, empower local communities, and foster economic development while simultaneously fulfilling their corporate responsibilities. As a result, CSR initiatives in India have become an integral part of the corporate landscape, reflecting a broader recognition of the interconnectedness between business success and social impact. And then what is the perception of the Indian government? Why Indian government mandated the CSR thing? How it looks on the part of how it perceives CSR also gains importance for discussion, because Indian government and its perception of corporate social responsibility initiatives are uh, it can be summarized. It can be summarized in three key points. First one is regulatory compliance and oversight. The government views CSR initiatives as crucial mechanism for corporate engagement in social and environmental causes. Through the Companies Act 2013 and subsequent amendments, the government has mandated that eligible companies allocate a portion of their profits to CSR activities. It actively monitors and regulates compliance with these requirements, ensuring that corporate entities fulfill their CSR obligations. And then government also looks at sustainable development and inclusive growth. The government perceives that CSR is a means to address a pressing social and environmental challenge and contribute to sustainable development. It encourages companies to focus on areas such as education, healthcare, sanitation, and environmental sustainability to help achieve national development goals, reduce inequalities, and enhance the overall quality of life for citizens. And then government also looks at public-private collaboration. The government views CSR initiatives as an avenue for collaboration between the public and private sectors to achieve shared societal objectives. It encourages companies to work closely with government bodies, non-governmental organizations, and local communities to maximize the impact of CSR programs and promote responsible corporate citizenship. The government acknowledges the role of business in complementing public efforts to address critical issues and drive positive change in the country. See, here if you look at one side, government as a regulatory, as a legislature, it not only brings the laws for making the corporates adhere to those laws, but it also keeps in mind the monetary restrictions that a government has in a big country, in a huge country like India, with a huge population, where the government resources alone are not sufficient to meet the requirements of the societal needs. That is where when corporates generate profits from the public, from the masses of the India, and these corporates also needs to share their profits in a way in the societal activities and empower the government further by helping them in creating good, I mean to say, good roads and healthcare, education, sanitation, whatnot. In all the ways, these companies can help with their surplus funds so that the companies help the government in achieving their developmental goals and reduce inequalities in our society and enhance the overall quality of the life of our citizens. And their corporates earlier, say prior to 2008, everybody used to think, I'm a corporate, I'm earning profit, why should I share my profit as a part of CSR? This is what the thinking the corporates used to have. But that thinking also over a period of time, with the technological advance that India has seen on the tech segment, the tech companies started liberally contributing to the societal well-being. By looking at that, even the brick and mortar companies joined the bandwagon, and they also started saying, okay, if Infosys shares some money for laying the road or for setting up an educational institute or for educating some women or for educating some old age people, whatever it is, we also want to contribute. That way, this whole movement started, and one by one adopted that, and then government made it mandatory. This is how corporates in India evolved over a period of time while implementing CSR. Now let's look at the importance and the role and the perception of NGOs in CSR. In India, NGOs play a significant role in the perception and implementation of CSR initiatives. Their perception of CSR initiatives and their role can be summarized as follows. NGOs generally perceive CSR initiatives as an opportunity for collaboration with corporate entities to address pressing social and environmental issues. They often see themselves as critical stakeholders and implementation partners, leveraging their expertise, local knowledge, and grassroots presence to ensure the effective execution of CSR programs. NGOs appreciate the financial support, resources, and visibility that partnering with companies can provide to their social and environmental causes. NGOs also play a crucial role in monitoring and holding corporations accountable for their CSR commitments. They assess the impact of CSR projects and initiatives, ensuring that they align with the needs of local communities and contribute to sustainable development. NGOs often act as watchdogs, advocating for transparency, ethical practices, and the fulfillment of CSR obligations by companies. In a vast country like India, NGOs bridge the gap between the companies and the community, that is the public, because NGOs, though they make some money for themselves, yes, of course, they are justified in making that, but they also spend money by working in collaboration with the companies and by giving ideas to the companies to spend the monies on certain so and so heads, and then by again helping the companies in spending those monies on those respective individuals, and see to it that those monies spent really reaches the end person, and then they also monitor the impact of spending of these corporates. That is how they play a really a crucial role. They not only facilitate the whole transaction between a corporate and the end needy guy, but they also act as watchdogs in case the companies just try to play dirty in terms of spending. So that way, they have a powerful role to play while being friendly with the corporates. And then NGOs also recognize the potential of CSR initiatives in empowering local communities and advocating for their rights and well-being. They work to ensure that CSR projects genuinely benefit the communities they target and aim to build community capacity for long-term sustainability. NGOs also engage in advocacy efforts to influence corporate policies and practices to align with socially responsible and ethical standards. In fact, this is a big role played by the NGOs in India at this point of time, because they advocate, they as advocates, in the sense that they indulge in advocacy and put their efforts to influence the corporates to spend on a particular need, particular necessity of the community, and then they make the corporates think whether to spend or not, and then they influence the corporates, and then they make them allocate the money, they make them spend. In a way, they are the real influencers with their advocacy skills. That is where they are playing a greater role in actually in the implementation of these CSR activities. Okay, and then many NGOs also engage in research, analysis, and knowledge sharing to promote best practices in CSR. They provide valuable insights, case studies, and expertise to guide companies in their CSR efforts, helping them make informed decisions and maximize the impact of their initiatives. NGOs also contribute to the evolution of CSR strategies and standards in India. Overall, when we talk about NGOs in India, in India's view, CSR initiatives as a valuable avenue for driving positive change and addressing social and environmental challenges, and they actively participate in these initiatives to ensure they align with their mission of promoting the well-being of society and the environment. This is what about the NGOs. Then let's talk about Indian local communities. Yes, in every industrial place, industrial locality, or in every place where there is a corporate office, surrounding that, we have local communities, okay, which play a vital role in corporate social responsibility. And their perception of CSR is also crucial in shaping the effectiveness and sustainability of such programs. Here are the key points regarding the perception of Indian local communities on CSR and their critical role. Local communities in India often view CSR initiatives positively, as they recognize them as a source of much needed resources and support. They perceive CSR activities as opportunities for community development, access to better education, healthcare, infrastructure, and livelihood opportunities. As such, CSR programs are seen as directly beneficial to their well-being. And then local communities also play an active role in shaping CSR projects by identifying their needs and priorities. They are critical in the planning and execution phases, providing valuable insights, local knowledge, and feedback. Community engagement ensures that CSR initiatives are relevant, culturally sensitive, and responsive to the specific challenges and aspirations of the community. They also play a greater role in social inclusion and the capacity building as they monitor and evaluate the CSR activities. And such kind of activities are essential for long-term sustainability of CSR projects and often see CSR initiatives as opportunities to address systemic issues and advocate for broader social and environmental change. And then the next stakeholders are employees. Employees generally view their employer's CSR initiatives positively and as an integral part of the company's identity and culture. Engaging in CSR activities can lead to higher job satisfaction for employees, improved morale, and a sense of pride among employees. However, effective communication, involvement, opportunities, and transparency are crucial for enhancing the perception of these initiatives and ensuring they align with the values and expectations of the workforce. And then comes, friends, the shareholders and investors. Typically, shareholders and investors perceive their company's CSR efforts as a reflection of responsible and ethical business practices. They see CSR as an indication that the company is not solely focused on profit, but also prioritizes social and environmental concerns. Such initiatives are often viewed positively because they can enhance the company's reputation, mitigating risks, and potentially lead to long-term sustainability. Shareholders and investors may see CSR as a way to attract responsible investors, reduce the likelihood of controversies, and create a positive public image, ultimately contributing to the company's financial success. However, they also value transparency and accountability in CSR reporting, as this allows them to assess the actual impact of the initiatives and ensure that they align with their expectations and values. So we have seen till now up to shareholders. Now we talk about customers. Customers typically perceive suppliers who implement CSR initiatives positively, and these perceptions can influence their purchasing decisions and brand loyalty. CSR can serve as a way for suppliers to connect with the customers who share their values and prioritize social and environmental responsibility, ultimately enhancing their reputation and market position. Then comes suppliers and business partners. Generally, they view CSR companies positively, valuing their ethical and responsible practices, as well as the potential for risk reduction and competitive advantages. Effective CSR initiatives can enhance collaboration, reputation, and long-term partnerships, contributing to mutual success and sustainable business relationships. And then comes academic and research institutions. They also perceive CSR as an essential field of study, research, and action. They are actively engaged in advancing knowledge, guiding business practices, and influencing policy development to promote responsible corporate behavior and drive positive social and environmental change. Friends, look at one proposition called CSR has many stakeholders, and each stakeholder has a role to play within the gamut of this CSR, and there each person has his own pie also from the total pie of CSR allocations done by the companies in a particular year. So that's where understanding the perceptions, understanding the roles that individuals assume for themselves in CSR is very important and very essential for professionals like us. And then, friends, media and civil society. Media and civil society perceive CSR as a critical domain for transparency, accountability, and advocacy for responsible corporate behavior. They play essential roles in promoting ethical practices, informing the public, and holding companies accountable for their commitments, ultimately contributing to the advancement of CSR as a tool for positive social and environmental change. And then comes lastly, industrial associations. Associations generally view companies that implement CSR initiatives positively, recognizing their role in setting industry standards, promoting responsible practices, and driving innovation. These associations often collaborate with CSR implementing companies to enhance industry's overall social and environmental responsibility, ensuring compliance with regulations and industry standards, and maintaining a positive public image. And then now, friends, now this is what you and I needs to debate. CSR, is it a noise in India or is it really effective? If so, what are all the reasons? Okay, let's look at that as a part of our last three slides for today's session. So, a lot of us are skeptical in really believing whether CSR is a reality or CSR is an accounting fraud done by the Indian companies or CSR is just a money rotational, I mean to say, theme for big time corporates to siphon out their profits. These are all the aspects that comes into our mind, and we also tend to look at from that angle some of the companies when they speak big and implement less. Yes, there are some bad elements as a part of these CSR implementation activities. They may not be really spending, but overall, when you look at it, when you look at the Indian corporate space and the way this CSR has evolved over a period of time, now for the big companies, it's becoming a really necessity to spend the money and to showcase that they have spent the money, because they are getting brand for their company only from these activities, and that in a way is enhancing their market price of their shares in the stock market. For that reason also, they are liberally spending on some of the public necessity oriented social activities. That's the reason over a period of time, I think under the brand reputation gaining exercise that any corporate does, in that process, once a person starts uh, gaining some fruits in terms of stock market returns, okay, then I feel their commitment towards even corporate social responsibility increases. In that context, corporate social responsibility in India is not a mere noise, say, we need not be so much so skeptical, but it is indeed effective, and there are several factors contributing to its effectiveness. Let us look at those factors. What are all they? First and foremost, in India, it is mandatory. Because it is mandatory, everybody has to spend, everybody in the sense, the person, whoever triggers the criteria set up, they have to spend the money. When they have to spend the money, they have to spend the money as per the activities defined under company law. Again, for spending in those areas, they require the help of some agencies, NGOs, okay, professionals, some companies, okay, Section 25 companies, whatever it is. They need a lot of people to implement that. So even to think negatively that some of these guys are siphoning out these monies, maybe they can siphon out a bit of it, yes, but they still need to spend a bit of it. Even that small sum reaches the end needy person, that is also a great in countries like India. So that is where I mean to say the effectiveness may increase with the blowing mechanism increasing over a period of time. But I feel even in a country like India, even some reaching the end users and needy persons is a great thing, and that is happening definitely in many cases. That's the reason I feel CSR is not just a mere noise. Okay, and then the scope and impact. CSR initiatives in India address a wide range of social and environmental issues, from education and healthcare to poverty alleviation and environmental sustainability. These initiatives have had a tangible impact on communities, contributing to sustainable development, poverty reduction, and improved living conditions. See, we know that at Neyveli Lignite Corporation, if we see as a case study, there were big time agitations. Likewise, in AP, there were big time agitations when power plants were to come on the coastal side. Even on the west coast side also, there were big time agitations. So all these agitations have happened because when the corporates were not caring for the local community over there. So when some of the corporates started showing by including the local communities over there, in fact, they came forward and helped these corporates set up their activities. That way, I feel CSR today has become a must for the new setups and also the existing setups to continue in their in their form as they are at present. So even people are getting awakened, and any kind of wrong activity on the part of these companies, factories, service sector companies, whatever it is, they are getting whistle blown, and that is the reason I feel corporates are also taking it very seriously in terms of implementing CSR. And then, as I told you, community engagement. Effective CSR in India often involves deep community engagement, ensuring the project align with the local needs and priorities. This approach fosters a sense of ownership among local communities and makes the initiatives more relevant and impactful. Okay, and then last but the slide is continuation in terms of reasons, measurement and reporting. Companies are increasingly focusing on measuring the impact of their CSR initiatives. They use metrics and impact assessment tools to evaluate the effectiveness of these programs, promoting transparency and accountability. Today, listed companies, as a part of their disclosure norms, as a part of the LODR disclosure norms, as a part of their listing disclosure norms, as a part of their balance sheet disclosure norms under corporate governance, they need to report on their corporate governance activities, again scrutinized by their corporate governance, I mean to say committees exclusively meant for CSR activity, which they need to compose with 3 directors. And so those 3 directors needs to explain what are all the various activities the company has done and how much amount they have spent on each of those activities, and they need to certify those activities. So an independent director will be heading the committee over there. So there, though he is an independent director heading the activity, but if he signs as if he vouched for that spending, definitely he will be in trouble. So the corporate governance norms, which led to measurement and reporting, have also made it compulsory on the part of companies to strictly adhere to this CSR spending. Okay, and then positive business. The companies also started feeling positive business outcomes because CSR has been shown to have positive business outcomes. Companies whoever actively engages in CSR often benefit from enhanced brand reputation, customer loyalty, and employee satisfaction. This in turn can contribute to long-term profitability. So this again makes companies voluntarily adopt to these CSR activities. And again, many Indians values socially responsible companies and prefer to support businesses engaged in CSR and ethical practices. This alignment with social values has a real impact on consumer choices, attracting customers and stakeholders. And then partnerships and collaboration. Collaboration between the companies, NGOs, government bodies, and other stakeholders is common in the Indian CSR landscape. These partnerships leverage expertise and resources to address complex social and environmental issues more effectively. So, when we look at all these things, they make us believe that yes, it's just not a noise, there is really something happening on the part of the ground. Then comes, friends, the policy advocacy. CSR initiatives can influence policy changes and improvements in India. Businesses and civil society organizations often collaborate to advocate for regulations and policies that promote ethical and responsible corporate behavior. And then global integration. Friends, today, India is increasingly integrating into the global economy. Companies are operating in India often need to adhere to global CSR standards and expectations, which further motivates their engagement in CSR activities. So that way, a lot of compulsions externally, internally, globally, domestically, locally, there are compulsions making the companies to adhere these norms. That is where slowly the grounding impact of CSR is seen on the Indian topography. Now, to conclude, friends, while CSR in India has faced definitely challenges, including issues of transparency, misuse of funds, and variations in the quality of initiatives, it has made significant strides also and has proven to be effective in addressing social and environmental challenges. The combination of legal mandates, community engagement, measurement, and alignment with social values has made CSR a meaningful and impactful endeavor in our country. So that brings us to the end of part one. I thank one and all for your patient listening. Now I keep the floor open for question and answers. Remember, this is a dry subject because this subject is in existence for a long period in India. Majority of you might have listened to this already, or some of you might have found the information useful because I tried to make it interesting by collecting the information from all the sources available so that you can be kept on engaged with the presentation. So that's where I tried my best to give you as a part of the series, as a part of part one, on the topic of stakeholders' perception of CSR initiatives. The second one will be on 30th. That will be more interesting for all of us because that will be more technical, that will be more finance and costing oriented, because we look at some of the models of bottom line assessment with reference to CSR initiatives. That will be really useful to our profession. And on 31st, we have the session on role of CMEs in CSR. That is also definitely going to be interesting because if you are practicing, then definitely it will help you earn good sums, and one can focus on CSR practice alone itself because the allocation for CSR in India has reached substantial sums now, and it has become an industry on its own. That's the reason for practitioners there is a good value addition there, and you need to know what exactly the role you have to play and how exactly you have to deal with the corporates on one side and how exactly you have to deal with the various stakeholders. That is the reason this presentation is a curtain riser for you definitely. So with that, now I open the floor for Q&A, and if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Or if you are feeling shy to ask the question, then you can put it in the chat. I will respond to your questions. Or I will wait for some time to know your questions. And if you don't have any questions, then I will tell admin to call it a day. And here in terms of chat box, if I look at it, there are some people. Someone is saying that Tata Group is in the top in 20 to 23. Yes, of course. I haven't taken the 20 to 23 numbers for all the companies as per the audited balance sheets are not yet out and compiled. Of course, they are out for the listed companies and listed segment companies because September 30th was the last date, but compilation is under process for all the companies. So as of today, as the final compilation is not complete, Tata Group may be on the top. Maybe it is on the top this year, but last year it was definitely Reliance Industries. 21, 22. Only I showed. I didn't put there any numbers relating to 20 to 23 because they will be confusing. Half-cooked numbers will be confusing always. Yeah. And then a query to the admin when CPIC shall be granted for this webinar. Okay. Please share PPT. Thanks. Okay. Very good presentation. Admin to about CEP hours. Somebody is asking about number of CEP hours that admin may clarify. Yeah. Now that's about the chat box details. And now, if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and talk to me. Yeah. All 33 currently are on link plug, but no one is asking questions. So admin, can we call it a day?
Hello.
Yeah, admin.
Yes, sir.
Somebody just now asked a question. One sec. Somebody asked
Hello.
a question. Yeah,
Ask me.
Dhyan.
This is Sanjay here.
Yeah,
I just
Sanjay.
want to make one small point that
Yeah.
don't you feel that that the Western countries, after achieving all the development, and now that countries like India and Southeast Asia now gradually moving towards the developed stage, this
Yeah.
CSR and these in a way a bogey is created to hamper their developmental activities
For the
like
Western
climate
country,
change and all. Because this climate, the Western countries, what happened in the past 50, 100 years, they made all sorts of polluting decisions and they achieved the development. And now that our country are gradually moving towards the developed stage, this climate change or this CSR and all these activities are though well intentioned, but don't you think these people are making use of these initiatives to somewhere hamper the uh, developmental activities of developing countries? Just a
uh,
small query.
yeah, no, it's a good question. If you look at it rationally, you have to analyze it from various angles. Yes, the developed countries at one stage or the other, like how India is in the developing stage now, they also polluted substantially, and now that they have developed, they have introduced and implemented all the environmental friendly measures for keeping themselves healthy. Okay, now as far as Asian side is concerned, when we bifurcate that western the western side and the eastern side, Asia is the key place where manufacturing activity is heavily taking place today. in the entire USA, if you look at it, excepting for the Trump's period where he tried to again restart some of the manufacturing activities in USA was not interested in manufacturing activity at all. USA was interested in outsourcing it because they are not interested in polluting their country. They were concentrating on high tech. They were concentrating on software, IT strategies, and company strategies, technology advancement, and things like that. But some of the Eastern European countries and some of the Asian countries, which were taking lead in terms of manufacturing activities, production activities, they have been leading in terms of polluting the environment, and they are in the forefront. That's where the Western countries are not insisting that you need to spend any money in their countries as a part of your CSR. They are telling you that, hey, spend some money when you are earning a lot of money as a part of your CSR within your country. Again, this is mandated by our own government. Our own government, as a part of Companies Act 2013, it amended in 2014 by stating that compulsorily the companies which I gave criteria in terms of net worth, in terms of sales, in terms of profit, whichever that triggers in a particular year, they need to spend on CSR. And they told that that CSR needs to be in these particular areas. So that way, they are streamlining our oligopolistic companies to spend heavily on CSR activities. Take, for example, Reliance Industries, petrochemical activities at Jamnagar or oil refinery activities at Jamnagar in a oligopolistic market like India. If they are making good monies, why should we allow them to take the monopolistic or oligopolistic profits? Rather, let them spend the money. So that way also, if we see, I feel the Indian government is well justified in making its corporates mandatorily spend at least 2% of their profits on CSR activities. But I don't think developed countries are taking any advantage of this, because this money is not really going to be spent on carbon reduction activities. You are talking about environmental pollution and all that. That happens through carbon pollution, that is CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions. That reduction has to happen. That is a separate subject. For that, the Western countries are now imposing through Paris Treaty and another Kyoto Protocol, and by making the countries to go for carbon credit trading mechanism to reduce the pollution in the environment, right? So that way I feel in India, CSR so far, though initially seen as a kind of exploitative mechanism by the capitalists, but when you look at from the unjust enrichment of only some people, and when you want to go for equitable justice, then definitely it's a good area which should be mandatorily implemented, and more should come and join in this bandwagon. And then there is, I hope the question answers you, the answer
a
gives
fair
you a
point.
satisfaction.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
So,
then there's one more question. Yes, sir. Anurava, please.
Yeah. The point that I wanted to make was what you said was absolutely correct. The one point of these social responsibility CSR activities is to promote equality in the society. If you see the Western countries, most of the Western countries, most of them, including European and the US also, the division between the rich and poor is very, very high. Okay,
Right.
they are developed, but if you look at the amount of percentage of people who are in the higher bracket or the lower bracket, it is, I think so, it is more than India, in fact, in lot of places. But at the same point of time, we have to understand that when we start growing, we should be a society which takes all the groups or all the parts of the society that grow equally. So the taking the initiative of by a growing nation is, I think so, is the correct way. One more thing that we need to understand, I think so, that we should remember the tax rates were actually reduced by percentage points and instead the CSR has been initiated. Technically speaking, the corporates did not lose money, and though the social responsibilities of taking care of them was government's role, and now the companies who are actually contributing to the taxes now have an opportunity to spend the money the way that they think they can improve the society on, instead of depending on the government. Okay, we
Yeah.
are definitely, there is a big question about the leakages that happen in the government tax, on the tax that we pay, and that is also to be taken into account. And at the same point of time, the leakages that can happen and does happen in the CSR field, that also should be taken into account, is definitely something that we all need to be aware of. And where I think so the role of the auditors, role of the people or the watchdogs or the whistleblowers, as you said, is very high. But as far as
Yes.
government is concerned, less of amount, we have less of control. And as of CFR, CSR, the companies who are actually doing, and mostly the NGOs, and I am talking about specifically the NGOs who are actually taking care of the people where the government doesn't reach, where the other parts of the society doesn't reach. I think so this is a good initiative, and we should look
Yeah.
forward that it should improve a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. I agree with you, but I would like to supplement by stating that, see, in India also we have wide range of gaps between the rich and poor. If you look at the latest reports, basically, there in India, we have 5% people holding 40% of our economy, and we have 15% people holding almost 60% of our economy, and we
Yes,
have
sir.
20% people 75% of economy, rest of the people forming part of the 25% economy. So if
Yes,
you
sir.
look at it,
For
if you
this
look
only,
at it
CSR is also.
yeah, look at, if you look at that way, like Western countries, post liberalization, this gap has substantially increased. That's the reason penalizing the corporates through a way of mandatory spending of CSR is a must. Otherwise, these guys will set up big factories, but when you come out, you will find pothole oriented roads. Why? Because they are not bothered. They feel that government should lay the roads. But if you don't pay to the government, and again you do a tax planning, you pay reduced taxes, and you don't pay anything back in return to the government, then how do they spend on the infrastructure and social infrastructure of the country? That is the reason when the gaps are increasing in India, I feel going forward, they should also increase these slabs of corporate social responsibility spending of the companies based on the amount of profits that they declare, not just say a small company with a 5 crores profit, which is nothing in today's inflation rates, should be taxed with CSR. Maybe a company with 50 crores, one slab, 100 crores, one slab, 200 crores, one slab. If you keep different slabs for different set of companies, then maybe the collection will also be high, and the societal welfare will also be high, and the gaps can also be reduced to an extent. That's what I feel, sir.
Thank you, sir. You're correct.
And I have one question from Dhyan Dedhia. If CSR is not spent, what are the consequences? Okay. CSR has to be spent. The 2% amount has to be spent. If it is not spent, what are all the consequences, in the sense that in the first instance, for 1 year there is an exemption. What you can do is the shortfall of CSR spending has to be reported under corporate governance norms under the head of CSR spend. The shortfall has to be reported. I have clearly mentioned in my presentation also. Once you mention that shortfall, again that shortfall needs to be added to your available CSR funds in the next year, and you need to complete that. So for that you need to account for it. Likewise, if you default for say constantly for some period of time, say 3 years or more, then the law will catch up, and they will catch hold of the committee, first of all, the CSR committee, whoever was heading that committee in a corporate, and the chairman of the committee, who should be an independent director. Even an independent director will also be criminally inflicted in case if the amount spent remains unspent, and if he doesn't account for it, or his successor doesn't account for it in the subsequent periods of time. So there are definitely criminal actions that can be initiated by the government as and when it feels necessary, or as and when there is a whistleblower, or as and when there is some kind of complaint going on, whatever it is, but that amount allocated has to be spent, and it has to be shown. And then up to what time it can be spent. Actually, this point is absent, but if we go by precedents, the amount has to be spent, if you ask me, in the next year. I mean to say, you can take 1 year as a gap to find opportunities to spend. But beyond 1 year, I feel you will be in trouble. Any other questions, please? So if you don't have any questions, I'll call it a day. Admin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anybody is going to ask a question? Admin?
So in the chat box,
Pardon me?
in chat box, only one is asking for up to what time it can spend.
Up to what? I answered that already. Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay. Nothing is in the chat box, sir.
Yeah. I have answered that already. So shall we wait for 1 minute for some guys to make up their mind whether they want to ask or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, that question, that question was asked, up to what time it can be spent, the money. Yeah. I stand corrected, actually. I just now saw the legal position. Yeah. The legal position says that in the first year, in case if you fail to account for it, if you fail to spend that money, then you can spend in the second year. You can carry forward that to second year. But I also told this in a way that with up to 3 years, you will be seen by the government whether you spent it or not. That is to say, the government says you will be seen till 3 years before they take any action. That is to say, maybe they allow you to spend within those 3 years, but you need to account for it every year for the carried forward balance. So I think this further explanation gives a much more clarity on the periodicity of amount to be spent. Okay, because just now I saw the Companies Act 2013. As per Companies Act 2013, you can spend the funds. You have to spend the funds in the next year, but you will be given a time period of 3 years, and if not, then the Ministry of Corporate Affairs will be taking an action on the corporate. This is what is the law position. So from the law perspective, if we see, and from the compliances perspective of reporting, if we see, yes, you have to account for the unspent balance from the first year, second year onwards. But if you don't spend before third year ends, then MCA will come into the picture, either on its own or after, or as and when it finds or somebody complies, then they will come into the picture and take action. Sanjay Natekar, with a capitalist mindset, it was difficult to digest, but personal thanks to Mr. Shastri for explaining it so nicely. Thank you, sir. We all are part of that evolution, right? So, as Indians, at one point of the time or the other, we were all victims of undue enrichment of others. And we work hard because we are left out to chance. And nobody helps us here. Everything you have to work on your own and make up everything. And even then, people put you under restrictions. Even then, you face all of that and grow on your own. That means an Indian professional, an Indian really doing good is a great person. And in terms of comparison, he may be equivalent to 4 or 5 people of America or of UK. That's the reason Indians whoever are migrating to overseas, they are doing really well. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions, sir? So, admin, shall we thank all the guests and say good night to all?
Yes, sir, if it is no doubt, so we conclude the session.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello, admin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Shall we say good night to all?
Yes, sir.
So,
Thank you so much,
friends,
sir, for
good
your
night.
valuable time and informative session, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
once again.
And see you again on 30th. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.